Are you there, mate? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
there we
here.
go. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, a bit shit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost like cancelled this myself. So, I'm just live streaming it. So I'll just speak to the people that might be watching or might watch it later. That I'm doing this one as a Three Amigos stream, so it's a bit later in the day, and it's usually me, Rob, and a fellow called Phil that comes, and well, we just take a look at the things that are happening for us, and we just move through self-inquiry together. And I thought it'd be a nice little change for the day, but unfortunately, Phil was a bit sick today, and as I was just saying, Rob, I almost didn't make it myself. Um, I'm just feeling a little bit like under the weather, and also this quite like strong uh, event. It's hard to, I can't really say anything about it, but something pretty like horrendous happened over this weekend for the family, and so it seems to be affecting me a little bit as well. But but
So just to put it out there, we can always cancel and just meet again later, or even later in the week if it would be better.
look, I'm really happy to meet later in the week, but there's I know that you know this yourself, that um, there's an opportunity if we're in pain and suffering a little bit to just push on a little bit and find out what's actually going on. It's pretty easy to be feeling like shit and just want to get rid of the self-inquiry, and it's actually a moment of opportunity, I would say. So
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm happy to be here with you. I'm happy that I like struggled out of bed this morning. Hey, I was feeling real bad. My eyes a bit sore and I was feeling a bit crusty, but yeah, I'm here. So
Okay.
happy to be here with you. And it's a pity that Phil can't make it today, but hopefully he's feeling better at some point in the week. And I don't know, maybe it's a Three Amigos week. maybe we'll maybe we'll get you guys in for another session later in the week, but let's see what happens. Let's do today.
Yeah, we get snow coming in again
Yep.
tomorrow and Wednesday, so I should be out, work on a golf course. So obviously won't be any golf. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so if we want to reschedule for any time this week, I should be available.
Yeah, well, let's have a little chat after this. My wife, she's finishing exactly on the hour, so and she doesn't live far from where we are. So let's have a little chat at the end and see if something will work out for later in the week. But
Sure.
for the time being, how's it going? I know that you went and did a bit of golf last week. Did you have fun?
Yeah, we went to Tampa, Florida. Temperatures were between 60 degrees and 80 degrees, and it's been super cold here in Virginia.
Yeah,
So the weather was really nice.
yeah,
Um, the golf was uh, average most days. I mean, I hadn't played in 6 weeks, so it wasn't very good. The last day, played real well
yeah.
on the last 9 holes, and so that was, at least there was a little sign there. The company, um, so basically the three aspects of the vacation were weather, golf, and the company was pretty good until the last day. And I've uh, I've tried to strike up a friendship with the guy I've known for a really long time. He kind of came back around the golf course where I worked, and so I opened the door to see if there could be a possibility, but it just doesn't seem to be working out. And he and I both uh, agreed um, to just be friendly with each other, but not, the friendship
Friends.
wasn't going to work out. Just in my view, the expectations and um, a lack of understanding about what boundaries are in a friendship, which were constantly being crossed.
Mhm.
Um, just kind of made the decision for me. So I still carry a little bit of it. I've had a lot of looping, not a lot, but some looping thoughts that have come back around. And um, as you know, we practice inquiry fairly. So I usually just go to my body and find out, where am I holding this?
Yeah,
Where's the feeling located? So I've found some tension along the back, along the spine area, some anxiety that was there, kind of a shakiness. And I've been sitting with that for basically since Sunday. I mean, this thing kind of happened. No, not Sunday. Yeah. Um, so yeah, Saturday and Sunday. And there's a lot less now
yeah.
because I've been continuously meeting it, but it still kind of shows up
Mm.
from time to time. So I just sit with that and feel into it and see if there's any images or words that come.
Yeah, yeah. So hey, I'm a little bit curious. Um, Man, I need to close my eyes. Hey, my eyes are really, really sore. I've got this quite a strong light coming from here, and I'm a little bit of suffering just sitting here. So just excuse me, but I'm just going to close my eyes. But the thing that struck me a little bit about what you were saying, um, sorry, it's quite nice just to come in a little bit. I haven't recognized I've been a bit mental this morning, you know. Um, so the sort of the question I guess that came for me was what was that um like I'm curious to hear about that sort of conversation or that understanding that you two came together, that you weren't going to be friends, that you would be friendly and you weren't going to be friends, and how that interaction happened, if you don't mind just sharing that.
It started out to be heated. So we played 36 holes of golf 3 days in a row. And
Yeah.
the last day, I wanted to go back to the Airbnb we were staying at and pack up, and just there was some leftover pieces just to eat there, um, get my everything together and take a shower and just relax. I was tired, 36 holes of golf 3 days in a row. I'm 65.
Yeah.
And as soon as we finished playing golf, what came out of his mouth was, listen, we're going to go eat chicken and drink some beer, and you're coming with us. So there wasn't any question there. There was a demand being made.
Yeah.
It was like immediately. And so I sat with that for probably 4 or 5 minutes, so that I didn't just react in a strong way. And I said, listen, I'm tired. I want to go back to and he got, super upset, said some words, and then dropped me off back there, um, where we were staying. And he and the other guy we were with went and ate wings and did their thing, drank some beer and whatever.
Mhm.
And then the next morning he says, listen, I just want to clear the air. And he rehashed it again.
Mhm.
And he rehashed it in a way that was like telling me that I needed to do what he thought I should do. And my response to him was just very direct. This time I didn't hold back anything. I said, look, I didn't come here to make you happy. I came here to play golf and enjoy and take care of myself, um, pick up some sunshine. And that just, he said at that point in time, he said, okay, well, then if that's the case, then we're just not friends. And I
Yeah.
said, I agree with that 100%. And so it ended right there. And then he sent me a text later saying, that he apologized for his behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and he thought that we had different perspectives on things, and it didn't seem to be working out. And so we would be friendly and cordial, but that's as far as it'll go. And I just responded, thanks, in other words, for the apology.
Yeah.
And I agree. That was the only
Mm.
words that I wrote, because at that point in time I didn't see any sense in going anywhere with it. And it had been something that had come up for me, I get this information, but I try to work through it where, he's one of these people where he walks up and punches you on the arm, slaps you in the chest,
Yeah.
crosses the line, what I consider, and he does it regularly. It's not, and I'm not a person that likes to be touched. I don't like to be hit. I don't like for somebody to come and slap me on the chest. I don't, none of those things are appropriate.
Yeah.
Um, to me, especially in a, way that you might be growing a friendship. So I felt like he constantly had given himself permission to um, act in a way that I thought was inappropriate. And the problem with all of that was that there had been a couple of times that he had done something that I would bring it up and he would just gaslight it. He'd just put it right back on me. Like, oh, you need to get over it or whatever, something along those lines. So I knew that at that point in time that there wasn't much of a way for this to go, because I wasn't going to be heard. It
Mm.
wasn't going to be taken in a way that um, was going to be something that he could understand. In other words, it was my fault that I had a problem with him doing these things.
Mm.
So,
Can I,
so
can
I,
I,
sure.
sorry.
No, I was just going to finish up by saying,
Yeah.
so I was happy that the friendship ended. I don't want to, this is not a guy I want to travel with and play
Mm.
golf with and do things with. He's not somebody that I want to, those things about when people come, there's a background to that where you just don't feel safe. You never know when they're going to reach out and just kind of whack you on the arm or on the chest or something like that. So it's automatically an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Mm. It's interesting to like sit and listen to you um, talk about this experience. Um, a little bit, it comes for me to sort of go back through it, this moments and then the feelings that were going, when he made this demand of you and you said you were there for 4 or 5 minutes and waiting. It'd be interesting to see what the kind of the feelings that were going through, but then at the end of this, what you said, it it sort of comes for me this question of what is it that he seems to be saying about you? Just real simple self-inquiry question. Um, like, well, what is it that stirred when he hits you, or what's his, underlying, like idea of you?
Um, he would probably have to answer that. I don't know. I mean, I've known him for a while, and he's done well in life, and he has a superiority better than
Yeah,
complex, which means that underneath it there's an inferiority. You and I both know that. So I've known that he had, when I first invited him in to play golf with us,
yeah,
there's an established group that we had been playing for a while. There was a couple of the guys that just pointed it out immediately. Wow, this guy always has to be like superior,
yeah,
and just basically do what he wants to do without taking into consideration. He makes statements instead of asking questions.
yeah.
Um,
So,
so
okay, but like, it's interesting. Interesting. You said that word a few times, inferior. Does that come up for you when you think about this situation? Do you feel like,
what comes up for me is I probably should have spoke my mind sooner. I probably should have said something about this. Um, and then when I, so this is stuff I've already kind of been working with and looking at. When I think about it, because of his past behaviors, when I've said something, I just simply didn't want it to escalate. It was almost as if I had been saying to myself, well, I can just deal with this and da 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 da. Da. Whereas under the surface of it, there was a no, this is not acceptable. I don't want to deal with this. But if I say something about it, it's not going to go over well. So it was a way to kind of avoid the confrontation.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so I think myself, I'm going to just um, like what's coming for me as I hear your sort of story is a similar like sort of story, I guess. It's a similar, and it's something that we've been talking about a few times this last couple of weeks, and I'm myself, I'm going to go with that idea of inferiority, like feeling inferior, and when I look at this person, it's my cousin again. Um, okay, so I see that kind of play that he does where it's like the physical kind of roughhousing, and um, it's designed, or the intent that I'm seeing in my mind is that it's designed to make me a bit afraid, to intimidate me a little bit. And it's interesting, as I was hearing you talk, I recognized within myself that I do that as well. Like I touch people when I talk to them, and it's like some habit that I've got, and I'm not like slapping them or anything like that, but I'm just reach out and I'll touch someone that I'm talking to, and it's some sort of mechanism that happens for me. And then I see it in my mind in from this person in the other way, that it's more about like getting some attention and a little bit of intimidation, and I'm seeing that in the mind, and that also it stops me from, like, my response to that is to turn away and go a bit quiet, and rather than express myself and get angry, um, and then this sense of inferiority comes in with the intellect, because he's quite smart, and he knows it. Let's say it like that. My cousin, he knows it, and so yeah, there's this air of superiority that happens when I'm around him at times. Most of the time, he can't not be in that way. We were playing a video game, and he'll be like, telling me I'm doing it wrong, basically telling me that he's better than me and that I'm doing it wrong is the simplest form of what he does. And and I guess like what's coming into my mind now is this at the start of your story when he said to you, "Hey, you're going to come and do this," and the response that I was, going to ask what you were feeling in that moment when you took the 4 or 5 minutes, and I can see within myself there's this stewing of like, I really want to be able to tell him to go and fuck himself, and I want to be able to like slap him around the head or whatever, and put him down in the way he's put me down. But I'm afraid in that moment, as well as angry. And mm, it's interesting because I had a session with a girl, a new girl, um, last week, and something like this came along as well. Something similar in this vein came along with her and with me. So I'm happy just to sit there, Robin, and I'm happy to hear what's going on for you.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. There's one is the recognition that we've known each other for a long time and been competitors
Yeah.
always. There's always been this competition. Um, but then I hadn't seen the guy in long, long, long time. When he showed back up at the golf course, and a friend of his played golf there and told him that I was working there. Um, so in opening the door, I opened up that competitiveness, which I like. I love competitive. I'm a competitor. I love being competitive.
Mm.
But in this case, there's an underlying, um, at least in my view, recognition that this could become violent,
Mm.
that this could become a physical um, confrontation.
Yeah.
And just with that coming in, immediately is the recognition um, that I don't want to be around this person. This is not. Um, I have literally no interest in being around people where something might physically escalate, and I have to either attack or defend myself.
Yeah.
At the age 65, it just seems to be really toxic. Um,
Mm.
and not very beneficial to either. There's no one that really wins in those situations. It's you've allowed something to happen, something, and kind of, I can kind of feel into that, kind of see it's kind of based on the past, where you really feel like you need to get over on that person. You need to find a way to push them down, make them less than. Um, Show them that you know, you're the dominant person,
Yeah.
which again just kind of reinforces, and again, this is all stuff that I've been looking at for the last couple of days, but it just, the more that I've looked at it here with you, the clearer it's become. And while there might have been some question around my decision, even though it felt really firm, there still seemed to have been, now there doesn't seem to be. It's like, this is definitely the right decision. Just move on. Um, the next thing that kind of shows up is I know that he'll be coming to the golf course. He plays there Wednesday in the league.
Mm.
And so it's like I'm seeing in my mind's eye him come walking up while I'm behind the starter box,
Yeah.
working that day. And there's an uncomfortableness to seeing that image. Like, I don't really know how to act. Don't really want to see him. It would be easier if I just didn't see him at all.
Can you tell me about the feeling of that
But
uncomfortableness?
it brings up, there's some anxiety that it brings up. Um, some of it is just not knowing how to act. Not really, just not knowing what to say, knowing I don't want to be an asshole, but at the same time knowing that any type of
That
being
you might be
friendly.
an asshole.
Just if I'm being friendly, it just really seems disingenuous.
Yep.
I mean, it's like I could still be cordial,
Yeah.
but um,
How does it take place in the mind? Like, if you let that image keep going and he comes up to the starting box and you sort of let go of the restrictions of, it's funny because the same thing's a little bit happening in my mind with my cousin. I'm letting the restrictions go on what would usually happen and just like letting it roll and see what happens. Um, so I'm curious to know, like, how do you act in that moment, in your mind?
so there's a recognition that I won't know until it happens. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Um, but there's also the um, I want to be true to myself. Um,
yeah.
there's always been in a confrontation type situations a little shakiness in the background. Um, I'm not new to violence by any means. Um, but there is a recognition that I just don't want that anymore. I don't want to have to deal with confrontation and the shakiness and the uncomfortableness around being around people that I just really don't want to be around.
Mm.
I recognize that I don't have a lot of choice. Um,
Can I jump in here?
sure,
The same sort of things happening in my mind where, that last part of the story, as I was talking, I was saying that, I would sort of cower a little bit under my cousin's like pressure, let's say, or the intent. And, and, so I'm letting it sort of change this time. That moved through, and now it's starting again, the same sort of pattern, story pattern. And rather than do that sort of cowering now, I'm like I'm looking him directly in the eye and I'm letting him taunt me and I'm just letting the scene play out in my mind. And it started out with a bit of, okay, well, fuck, you want a roughhouse and let's fucking roughhouse, And I'm slapping him around the head a little bit, and then it moved into, um, the next possibility, and that's that he just gets really really freaking angry and loses his shit and just pulverizes me, basically just destroys me and kills me, basically. And so I move through that. I'm on the ground and I'm just jelly, because he's completely lost his shit. And I'm dead, basically, and I'm still here, but I can see, oh, the body's there. And then and then I let that move through, and then it came to this last kind of iteration. And what happened was I grew, like the size of my body just grew and grew and grew and grew, and I became this huge, um, I don't know, a huge, form of myself, and just dwarfing the size of him there, and I could just like stand on him and stamp him out of existence. And there's this kind of it's a bit cartoonish in my mind, but I can feel that little bit surging through my body, that the power of that. And and then I'm coming back now, and okay, so the last iteration's just happening in this moment. And I'm sort of just hearing him and I'm listening to him, and I can feel my anger getting like rising a little bit as he's pushing me, and I'm like, hey man, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And I feel quite calm, even though the anger's there and there's a rising in energy. And I'm still looking him directly in the eye, so I'm not cowering anymore. And Mm. Okay, and then this thought of superiority and inferiority come in again, and and that kind of plays out. Like, yeah, I can admit that you're superior to me in some ways, even in all ways. Huh. So then, like, it passes through me, this intent and the force that he's trying to give me is passing through me, and it hurts a little bit to say that I feel inferior, but it's true in some ways, or always. There's bound to be one person that's more superior to me in all ways, and and for whatever reason that feels okay in my body at the moment. The intent, or like the image of him with this intent, is just kind of pouring through me, and not really touching the sides, and I can still be there and be like looking at him and with him, and yeah, yeah. So again, I'm happy to hear what's going on for you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, so I was kind of focusing in on that locking eyes thing. And it's like he who looks away first is the loser.
Mhm.
It's like almost if you look away, it's like a sign of being intimidated. And then if you don't look away, it's like a sign of trying to intimidate the other person,
Mhm.
trying to um so I'm just looking at that, and, it's like what does it mean about me? There seems to be like identity in that. Like if I was to look away, um, I'm not able to hold my own. I let other people push me around. I'm easily intimidated. And then the opposite of that would be that if I stay there locked eyes, it would be like he would challenge. Oh, so what are you trying to get me to back down? You're trying to get me to look the other way,
Mhm.
type of thing. So it's like this play of ego, this play of personality and identity. It's why you were talking earlier. I had this insight come up that I just wanted to stay connected to myself in a way that's meaningful, not aggressive, not being a passive, just connected.
It's coming a little bit like just to ask you the question of, are you denying something here? Are you denying a part of yourself? Like, what if you become aggressive or become passive, or like,
Yeah, so those are the identities that I had kind of brought up. So if I become passive, then the identity behind that is not being able to take care of myself, letting people push me around.
mm,
And if I become aggressive, if I stay locked in, then it's kind of like I'm attempting to push the other person around. I'm like showing them I can hold my own. And both of those seem like it's a just identity play. It's just personality, um, or some type of self that needs to either win or feels like it loses. Which is why I brought in the piece of, just wanting to stay connected to, like, just kind of be in that place where I'm comfortable with myself in a peaceful way. Let whatever come, let whatever go without grasping it
Mm.
and making it into something that it isn't, which is, then it'll become a story. And then as that present moment has changed and passed on, he moves on. I'm still carrying some type of story about self in me. It'll loop, and the thought will come, and then it'll have a feeling to it, or the feeling will come and it'll have a thought to it. It works both ways. Which is interesting because then there's the wanting to just kind of stay connected to self, and it's like, so the question is, like, what would that give me? What would be the benefit of that? So that too is part of the all of the working equations here. And it's like, what would that give me? And it would, I would just be kind of peaceful. I would just be, um, and yet, it kind of seems like that has identity in it too.
Mm. What would that stop you from feeling?
Tenseness and tightness.
Mm.
Um, either bringing up aggression or, um, feeling like a sense of weakness.
Yeah.
Which those are definitely all part of those identities.
I would also say that it's a part of like you though.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that the identities are separate. They're definitely something that would, um, come up in the system, right? I mean, I wouldn't be able to see it and recognize it if it wasn't, if an aspect of it wasn't there.
Okay, but you seem to be differentiating that or those two identities with this sense of like self that you want to be in, that's peaceful and calm. I
Right,
might
which
I
is
might be
kind of
hearing
like,
that wrong.
yeah,
I might be
no,
hearing
that
that.
which is kind of like an identity itself, right? It's kind of like reach this place where you stay connected. And then I ask the question, like, what does that give you? And it would be like, there's some identity in there that could just, handle the situation, let everything come and go, remain in this state of peacefulness,
Yeah.
while things come and go. Which is an idea, right? That's a thought too. That's a perception, that all of that's within this same, um, unfolding that's happening.
Yeah.
So I just bring an image of him back up again, and there's nothing really going on to it. So I want to go back to that Friday thing where
What was his words? Something like, "We're going to go and
after
have
we after we
wing."
played
Yeah.
golf, he said, and let me just preface it by saying, he had been on the phone playing that last round because his dad was dealing with some health complications. There was some medical stuff that was going on.
Mm,
Um, and so he had said something about wanting to go unwind from the medical stuff. And I kind of had mixed reactions to that because he had already said that morning on the way to the golf course that he wanted to go watch golf because the Waste Management golf was on the PGA Tour. Um, and it's on the West Coast, so going at 5 o'clock would still give you a chance to watch a good bit of it. And he had said that morning, so I already knew that he kind of had that as an agenda. So I
mm,
wasn't buying the fact that he wanted to go wind down from his dad's medical stuff when he already had an agenda to do that. I'm sure there was a part of that in there where he did want to just kind of take a break from the whole thing and go maybe drink a couple beers, which was fine. I wasn't trying to keep him from doing that. I just wasn't interested in going with him to do it,
mm.
which was where I think the barrier of friendship for him got broken. It was like you're not willing to go and support me while I did, whatever it was. And my answer was no, I'm not. I'm tired. I've played
Yeah.
36 holes of golf 3 days in a row. I want to go home and rest. You can
Yeah.
wind down at the house. You don't have to go to a bar to wind down from your dad's stuff. You can do that anywhere.
Well, he
Um,
can support you in what you wanted as well. That's what friends do.
right. And he did not want to do that. I mean, what he did was attack me and say, oh, so let's just make it all about you then, which of
Mm,
course was because he was making it all about himself. This is what he wanted to do, and I wanted to do something different.
mm,
Which we've had those conflicts before about where we fly out of, different things that we do. Um, and so that's just all part of the conflict again that that I'm not interested in. I'm just not interested in this push come to shove. Um, so just having people force their agendas on me.
mm.
And then if I stand up for myself, there's something wrong with me. If I speak my mind and say, look, I'm not really interested in doing that, um, but I might do this. And then there's like, his reaction to that is like immediately, okay, Butler, we'll do whatever, it's kind of like some type of dismissal, like I'm not supposed to be able to speak my mind.
Yeah.
And and I'm well aware of that type of suppression from people,
Yeah.
and I'm just not interested in any of that.
So, hey, what would you say to him if he was, if you were back in that situation, he was saying, "Okay, Butler, we'll do what you want." What would you say in that moment, to stop that?
I probably wouldn't try to stop it. I would just because I'd already told him what I was going to do,
Yeah.
but I would just go do what it was. But it doesn't seem to me that there's an opening there for conversation to actually take place. Like for me to use some type of wisdom or analogy that he would just not be receptive to at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty closed down. So I recognize that already. And I just, when I make up my mind that this is what I'm going to go do, then, then I just go do that. Because that's what works for me.
Mm.
But the difference is that I'm not trying to keep him from doing what he wants to do. I'm like, yeah, go do that. Go do what it is that you want to do. I'm, yeah, that's fine with me.
Mm.
I don't take that as being offensive at all. But when I
So,
want to do what I want to do, it
yeah,
seems to
yeah.
be offensive.
Yeah. And hey, it just came into my mind this, like, because the same sort of things have been going through my mind too, the selfishness of the situation. And then it came just in at the end there that that this person for me needs me in order to be the way that they are in that moment, like needs me to be there that they can push so they can get their, so that they can be their identity and get their feelings going, and without me they're not allowed, they can't do that.
Right.
um
And I've seen him do this in those particular situations. And I knew that he had gotten married and that um, right before he got married, that his girlfriend was going to leave him. And it was exactly that type of behavior that he was forcing on her, that
mm,
she had just was like, no, I'm done with this. And
yeah,
it shook him to the point that, he would not behave like that around her anymore.
yeah,
Because he knew that he was going to be losing something that he wanted, that um, that he wanted to be part of his life. So but I'm not that. I'm a take it or leave it type of guy. He can move on to something else, and that I've found this thread many times in different areas. People that are religious. It's not okay to be atheist. It's like I'm okay with them being whatever they want to be, but they're not okay with me, being where, that, so there's like a double standard there.
yeah, yeah. Well, they
Uh,
can't be the way that they are if we're not all going to hell, mate.
yeah,
Or we're not all friggin',
and be able to judge us in a certain way, and and that is this idea of superiority. It's like they have this idea that um, whatever it is that they're thinking is the right way to do things and the right way to look at things, and whatever way you're doing it is not.
I know that I have that within myself as well. And I know personally that I have that within myself at times, for sure. Um, so I don't feel that like we're having some big judgments about anyone or anything like that, and just to let anyone that's watching know this, that I think we'd both be open to these people that we're talking about coming in and seeing if we could sit in this sort of a conversation where we might actually um, move not just within ourselves, but also with each other. I think that's one of the good things that we have. Um, because you're right, we as well, me and you, we had competition at the start, for sure. And hey, can we I got 10 minutes, but I there was one thing I just wanted to revisit, and I'm just looking for the reciprocal thing in my mind. Um, but it was about that point where you were at the starter box and he was coming up to you, and just to see if that image had changed feeling wise. And for me, it's
Yeah, I can immediately feel just a little bit of anxiety as soon as I see that image. So
with
I
that.
can feel, like uncomfortable.
Mm.
So, and as soon as you said, um, like you can see that in you, I can see it in me too. There's times where I just want to do things
Yeah.
my way. You know what I mean? I just, and I know my wife and I um, have, kind of come together on that. And I also recognize that I'm a lot better at it today, and that I realize that there's um, more than one way to do it, and
Yeah.
that not doing it my way is not a big deal
No.
most of the time. It's
Yeah.
like if I get called out, like I might want to do something and I'm kind of set on that, and they call it out, I might have an immediate reaction to it, but then there's a part of me that's worked through that so many times before that kind of shifts in and goes, okay, how important is this?
Yeah.
It's not going to be that big of a deal. And I've also noticed that sometimes doing it a different way, I get to see things differently that I wouldn't have seen before. So
Yeah.
there's something about that that kind of opens the door. So there's a benefit in that, and I recognize that.
Yeah.
And it really kind of depends on where I am, what frame of mind I am, and
Yeah.
how stubborn I am in that moment.
What's
What's
going
been
on? Yeah. If I'm tired or hungry, or
Yeah,
yesterday,
yeah,
my wife and I, we had the same sort of thing where where we just like a little bit set each other off, and then there was this little bit of backwards and forwards about like ways of doing something and perspectives and all the things you've just said. I would like I know that within myself as well, but we had to just keep like just keep an eye on it as it was going, just keep an eye on it and say, hey, I'm feeling shitty at you for doing this at the moment. And then, we would like sit there with that and then it would like open up again. And
Right.
it's interesting with like the ending part of that for me was my cousin. He's a bit of a conspiracy kind of person, he sends me all this conspiracy stuff, and I know that's part of it. And when I was younger, I was like quite into it, but now I'm a bit, you know, uh, it doesn't really. I don't get the same juice out of it anymore. I don't get that like justified and we should be killing these people for doing this thing and da 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 da. And and I can see that that's a big part of our sort of. I'm an outlet for him in that regard, and it's not something I want to do. And then I can see the selfishness too. I sent him one of these videos, of a really nice session that I did with someone last week, and I doubt that he's watched it. And it just makes me feel a bit like it's not reciprocated. The friendship's not reciprocated, and the it's the same actually. There's another friend as well who sent me something. I sent him one video to say, hey, this is a real good one. It's a good description of the thing I'm doing. So have a look and let me know what you think. And I'm feeling this a little bit with the family and friends as well, some of them. And and then he will send me some YouTube video back on something else. And I feel like saying, hey, you know, why would you send me this? Well, why would you show me that you're watching something else and not helping me and not, taking a bit of time to like support me in a friendship as well. And there's a little bit of that at the moment. I'm feeling that a little bit with different people, and some people it doesn't. It's funny that some people it doesn't matter. I recognize that they're never gonna have any interest, and then there's some shoulds, some ideas of like my sisters. None of my sisters have said anything
Well,
or
there's wanting that support, right? There's wanting to that you send something out to somebody because you're wanting something reciprocated.
yeah,
AA says all the time that expectations are the beginning of resentments. So
yeah,
without expectations, we couldn't have the resentments. But expectations are part of, just they come up kind of naturally. It's a way of kind of connecting in a different way. It's kind of like we expect, and if that expectation gets met and does get reciprocated, you feel like validation is there, and now there's maybe some more way to go with it.
yeah. Yeah, it's an
So
interesting balance too, because you can look into the expectation and the idea that someone should be doing something, quite a lot. And
yeah,
interesting that it's like this. I recognize it's the should, or the idea that they should be a particular way, but that doesn't seem to stop the like that should happening. It doesn't, and it's the hope too. It's interesting. It
yeah.
doesn't.
Every should has um it's like going down the rabbit hole, right? It's like if we go down the rabbit hole of should, then we start uncovering deeper aspects of why that shows up. I've done a couple sessions, maybe 100 on my shoulds and shouldn'ts and wanting and um, expectations and the background feelings, and most of that's being driven by how I feel and wanting people to meet certain feelings that I have.
Yeah. needs as well. It's so funny just to like open that a little bit. I don't want to open it now, but I can just like, I can just, I hear that little door in the back of my mind going, are you sure you want to open this one? Um, and
I know you got to
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Why don't you think about
Hey, sorry, just 1 second.
sure.
Just let me turn this off.
Okay.
Um, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Say goodbye, Rob.
Goodbye, Rob.
Hopefully next week we'll get the three amigos. Oh, actually, I'm away next week, so but
Right.
yeah.